Welcome to Beyond the Business, the podcast for high-achieving men who've built extraordinary careers and are now asking, what comes after the exit? Whether you've sold the company, stepped out of the spotlight, or are simply planning your next move, this show is for the man ready to live with intention. We explore how to thrive in your 60s, 70s, and beyond through candid conversations on health, relationships, reinvention, legacy, and purpose. Because when the business card is gone, you're not done. You're just getting started. This is Beyond the Business. What comes after the exit?
Everybody, welcome to the event tonight. What I'm really trying to do with these expert series is bring your fellow Tiger clients into our world where their expertise can be shared to benefit you. Kelli is at the Olsheski Koziak Group. She specializes in providing comprehensive financial planning services tailored to the unique needs of highly successful business owners and professionals. Her team, based at Merrill Lynch's Fort Collins, Colorado office, is led by Kelli herself and then Corey Koziak. Both are certified financial planning professionals. And I've experienced this myself. They've got a deep commitment to helping their clients achieve their goals. You need to know Kelli's got multiple designations, certified plan fiduciary advisor, certified exit planning advisor, which would be really relevant for a lot of the people in our company, certified divorce financial analyst. Hopefully you don't have to go through that, but if you do, she has background in it. Chartered financial consultant and an accredited asset management specialist. So again, her focus is on helping business owners navigate the complexities of their financial lives, addressing challenges such as compensation structures, succession planning, and the need for strategic tax minimization strategies, and really helping you plan for your exit someday. Kelli's married to a great guy named Dave, and they obviously live in Colorado. She loves to ski and mountain bike and hike and explore different adventures outdoors. So I'm going to jump over to the actual call itself now. And just, Kelli, welcome to the Tiger Expert Series.
Well, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate it. It's really been it's been a bonus and a blessing in my life to have met you and also to be involved in Tiger, because it's making a real impact on my life and my husband's life regarding our health. So
thank you.
I'm really looking forward to, hopefully being able to help business owners have an impact on their financial health.
Right, which is part of the Jeffrey, who's on tonight, is in a group called Freedom Founders, and they talk about 5 freedoms of it's financial freedom, it's health freedom. There's 3 more, and when Jeffrey has time, sometime he can tell us the other 3. But health and wealth freedom really go together, and that's something I talk about all the time when I speak. And so, Kelli, let me ask you this first question: why do you focus on business owners, and in particular, the unique needs that they have in transition planning?
Well, the big reason is because business owners have a lot of pretty similar attributes in who they are personally.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've been in the entrepreneurial world for a long time. I work for a large company, but we run a team that functions as almost like a small family office within a larger corporation. So we run it like a business, and I've run businesses almost my entire career. So I understand the motivation, the commitment that it takes. And also that, most of the business owners that are successful, it's because they're dedicated, they're purposeful, they are passionate about what they're doing, and they love what they're doing. And sometimes they grow not to love it so much towards the end. They may miss that burnout period, but they have that commitment. The successful people that are in this business, they do that. But the reality is that most business owners, a lot of them, 90% of their wealth is held in their business. Okay.
Yep.
And
it's true of me. So yeah.
And the rest of it's held in their home. Okay.
Right. Yep.
And so when they're looking at, well, what happens after I exit my business? And trust me, I hear it from business owners all the time. I'm never going to exit, or I'm not going to exit for 20 years or 10 years or 5 years or whatever that number may be. But that whole planning of what do I do afterwards? Because there's a very good chance. I mean, 100% of business owners are going to exit their
Oh,
business.
yeah. Right. Yeah.
100% of them.
Yep.
Because
So why do they cringe, Kelly? Because so many people do. They cringe when they hear that thing, that phrase, exit planning.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is it's that same thing. It's that passion and that commitment. And a lot of people don't want to give that up. There's also a component of purpose. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like 80 some odd percent of business owners are unhappy a year after exiting? And a lot of it's because they didn't really think of it after. They didn't think about like,
Right.
what am I going to do with myself? How am I going to fill that time? Because I'm going to tell you, you can golf for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then after about 8 months, you're like, maybe I want to do something different. Okay.
Right.
But
Yeah.
having that personal plan is a big deal. The second thing is that when they exited, sometimes they were forced into an exit through one of the 5 Ds, that's going to be death, divorce, disability,
Yeah.
disease, and disaster. Okay. And sometimes when those things force their hand, they're like, oh, I didn't really plan for this. And I didn't either get anything out of my business or I got a fraction of its actual value. Okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't take the time. Right.
Right.
Yep.
And honestly, their business wasn't ready for them to exit from it. The reality is, you could be ready to exit from your business, but if your business isn't ready to have you exit from it, you're not going to get very much or anything from your business. And that's
Right.
really the big key. So people cringe over the whole idea of exit planning, one, because maybe they're not personally prepared for that. Maybe they're not personally financially prepared for that because they have a disconnect on what they're actually going to need from their
Right.
business when they get
And
out.
let me jump on that. If you're, Jeffrey's on and others who will watch the recording, you need to listen to this all the way to the end because I'm going to talk about my experience with Kelli. I have an MBA in finance. I worked as a banker. I am very familiar with a lot of this stuff. I passed the CFA exam. However, I was shocked about what I didn't know and how valuable it was. And Kelli just added a ton of value to me in just opening my mind to what I've got to anticipate and think about. So, I think that's cool. Kelli, you have, I've heard you talk about like the 3 things business owners really need to do to create a significant business. Can you unpack that for our people?
So that idea of significance in your business has to do with how prepared your business is for you to leave. Okay. So evaluating that preparedness, evaluating the business valuation, the enterprise value.
Yeah.
And then being able to look at how separate you can be from your business specifically. But what most business owners have to actually be able to do is they need to maximize what their transferable business value is. Okay. Yep. And I'll expand on that a little bit, but the big things I've heard this from business owners a ton is I'm the best salesperson. I know every process in our system. I'm my best employee. If you're your best employee, your business doesn't have very good value. Okay.
Right.
Because your business doesn't really have any transferable value unless it can go without you. Okay. So that's a big deal. And this is a hard thing because business owners, like I said, they say their best investment is their business. They trust it. They've got control over it. It's funny. You've heard this. We've had some huge people who have exited from their businesses who said that business owners, they feel like they have control over this business, which is and they're afraid of the market, but they own a micro stock that is highly illiquid and extremely volatile. Okay.
Right.
There's nothing.
A lot of concentrated risk. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a hard thing because people feel that they're in control of this. but and they don't want to give up control, because if they feel like they give up control, then they're giving up their baby. Okay.
Right. Yep.
The
Yep.
second component is preparing appropriately for that lifestyle, that when you no longer have the income from the business. And this is a tough thing, because I've seen this 1,000 times. I had people who had $5 million houses. They ran really successful businesses, and they reported about $45,000 a year in income. Okay. But they ran their car payment, a lot of their house payment, they ran insurance and tons of stuff through their business. And so they may have been paying themselves $45,000 in salary, but they lived like they were spending $250,000.
Right.
And so having that preparedness when your business is no longer going to provide you regular income, that the sale of the business or whatever that transition looks like has to be able to last for some period of time. Or what's that next thing? Is it another type of business? So, that exit planning, maybe
or a job. Yeah. Right.
exactly. And then,
and then I remember that when me and you met, I was kind of surprised. Like there was things I didn't think about, like repairing my roof and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, this number's got to be bigger than I was thinking. Yeah.
And medical and the inflation on all of this. And then,
exactly.
And what about the what ifs? Like, what if somebody in your family gets cancer, or, if you want to retire earlier and you have to pay for your own medical care, or what if you live in a disaster area, or what if you live in Colorado and all of a sudden nobody is going to cover your insurance in a fire any longer, and you've got to cover the cost of your house. There's a lot of things that we don't ignore the what ifs. We just don't always know all of them. So when we prepare well for something, we're trying to identify that. And so preparing financially for the future is not preparing for the minimum. It's preparing for what you want and what as well. Okay. And the last thing that's really important is actually plan for that meaningful retirement. Okay. Business owners share a lot of qualities. Like I said, they, a lot of things in their behavior, but another behavior that they share is commitment, dedication, a huge amount of self-confidence to be able to achieve great things. And when that big achievement that you have in your life is no longer driving you day in and day out, where is that sense of relevance going to come from? And that it could be volunteering, it could be purpose, it could be family, it could be dedication to family, it could be charity, legacy. There's so many different things, but if you don't explore that, it can be daunting and it can be devastating.
It can be deadly too, because it's the research that our doctors have is that one of the worst things you can do is full stop retire, because it sends signals to your body of decay.
Right.
So accept challenges even in your retirement. For me, I went all the way. I found a new purpose, and that was to restore health and achievers, like you and Jeffrey and others. And sometimes I'm thinking, were you crazy? I could have retired when I was 53, but I'm so glad I did it because of the stories and the impact. But my point is not to talk about me and brag about that. It's about, I have purpose in my third active life of retirement. You know what I mean? And when I sell this someday, I plan to have some kind of purpose. It won't be starting another business, I can tell you that. But that's what you're saying, is just be thinking long in advance. What are you going to do for purpose that gets you up out of bed every day when you're in retirement?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
And besides things like exercise and diet, and like I read a book years ago. It was called Younger Next Year.
Yep.
The 7 healthy things. So exercise. The three rules you have to follow is exercise. You got to quit eating crap. Do not outlive your money. Okay.
Correct. Yep. Right.
Okay. And then the next one is connect and commit. Okay. So those relationships we have really matter. And the last one is care. And that's really about purpose. And so when we combine all of these things in the tools that we use and the process that we use to help prepare people for those next steps, every business owner is different. They may share several similar qualities, but everybody has a unique plan. Oh, Corey's jumping on too. This is my business partner.
Good. Yeah, great.
Um,
Yep.
so that unique plan it's all going to be driven by what their specific goals are. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Now we're really talking about the financial planning component of it now, but when we look at it from that exit planning standpoint, the ideology is we want to align that personal commitment, that personal purpose with the personal financial, that we can't accomplish any of those if we don't have that third leg of our stool, which is the business value. Okay. And
Right. And I want to jump into that. I've heard you talk about focusing on building business value rather than business income. Can you kind of transition into that?
yeah, because if you have owned a business ever, you know that cash is king and cash flow matters, right?
Right.
Okay.
It does. Yep.
And it really does because you got to pay the bills. Okay. But when you start looking at building the strength in your business, cash flow is only going to be a component of it. The value of your business is going to drive everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the value of your business increases, your cash flow increases. And so when we start focusing on what improves the value of a company, it's really those capitals that are associated with how well a business operates. And so there's four capitals that in this value process that are explored. That
Mm-hmm.
first, and I'll go through them real quickly, but the first one is the human capital. Who do you have working for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You got yourself, but who can replace you? Okay.
Right.
And what's your executive team looking like? How good are your employees? How well trained are they? And we'll talk about how happy they are eventually, but that plays into another capital.
If you're a man over 60, let me ask you this. When was the last time you got a truly personalized look at your health? Not a rushed physical, not a "you're fine" from a 5-minute appointment. I mean real data, real insight into what's driving your energy, your sleep, your focus, and your future. That's exactly what the Tiger Health Assessment delivers. It's a concierge-level diagnostic experience designed specifically for high-performing men in this next season of life. You'll walk away with a complete health blueprint and a clear path to more energy, more clarity, and more years doing what you love. Visit tigerhealthassessment.com and take the first step toward your strongest chapter yet. Now back to the episode.
The second capital that we have is structural capital. So this is, do I have processes and procedures in place? Do I have contracts in place? Do I have patents in place? Do I have a good manufacturing facility? Does it operate well? Do I have good contracts with my suppliers? Do I have, alternate suppliers? Any of those number of things. What does my insurance look like? Okay. What does my CRM look like for my company?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
POS, all of these things really matter. And do people know how to operate that? And do we plan for those routine upgrades? Okay. Then we look at customer capital. And this is, do I have enough customers? Okay, that's obvious,
Yeah, right.
You got every business is selling something, whether it's a service or a product or whatever that may be. But and then how diverse are those customers? And how much of my business do my top customers hold? So for example, if I have 20 customers and they each are at 5%, if I lost 5%, if I lost my top 5 customers, I'd lose 25% of my business. Pretty good. It's not horrible. You can probably rebuild that in a year or two. But if you've got 20 customers and 5 of them have 80% of your business and you lost your top 5 customers, that could be
you're deep trouble.
right, problematic.
Yep.
And then how strong are those contracts? Who are those relationships with? What is the renewal on that? What does that customer structure look like? Are they one-time buyers? Are they a subscription? So there's all sorts of components that go into that customer capital. And then the last one is culture. Okay. And this really matters when a buyer is looking at you, because especially private equity, because they're buying a lot of stuff. Okay. It's probably the largest growth area in our, in business sales probably over the next decade. Okay. And that's me saying it, not any specific research, just so you know.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But private equity buyers, They know how to evaluate all this stuff. A strategic buyer may look at it a little bit differently, but
Yep.
this goes to how happy are your employees, how happy are your customers with how your employees interact with them, and all of this matters. So in all reality, a business is valued typically. Now I'm just going to say this because there are lots of ways that people can value
Mhm.
businesses, but most of the time the big number you're going to have is EBITDA. Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
And everybody wants to know what that cash flow is. Okay. And we just said value matters more than income. Well, the reason that this matters is because when we look at adjusted EBITDA, which takes out like
The owner comp, yeah.
one-time cost. Well, an owner comp may come out of it, but you got to be able to pay somebody else to take your
Right.
position.
It's usually excessive owner comp, so it comes back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Or things you run through the business. There's all sorts of
Yeah.
there's and we've got fantastic CPAs, and you probably have a good CPA that can help you with that. But that's an easy thing. But
Mhm.
every industry, every company within that industry, every type of business is going to have a range of what their multiple is for when they sell it. Okay. So
Mhm.
for example, if we look at a healthcare clinic, maybe it'll sell at 5 to 12 times EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA. Okay.
Right.
Maybe,
Mhm.
and maybe in one demographic it's a little bit higher weight, maybe in another one it's a little bit lower. But what's the difference between getting 5 times and 12 times? Well, that's how strong your capitals are. Okay.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
the
Yep.
easier it is to transition that company to that next owner, and the less trouble that you have doing it, the less you're likely to have somebody have a clawback, which says you have this business has to perform or we're not going to pay you everything. Okay. Or a retention requirement if you've got to stay on for 2, 3, 5 years,
Mhm.
a certain amount of the salary. We can eliminate some of that by improving it. But the big thing is that you get those higher multiples because it's easier for somebody to drop in. And I kind of look at it from a house standpoint. Okay. If
Yeah.
you're going to go and buy a house and everything's based on the square footage of the house and the zip code of the house, you're going to get more money for somebody who has beautiful landscaping, they have upgraded kitchen, and they have, alarm systems or whatever that might be in that house versus somebody has to go in and actually do a bunch of work. Okay. And
Right. Yep.
and that's really it. It's just a multiple there. And this is why value matters more than anything. And guess what? Ultimately, if your EBITDA is $10 million and your multiple is 12, that's $120 million. But if your multiple is 5, that's $70 million that you're leaving on the table. So it makes sense to look at this. So we talk about exit strategy, a good exit strategy. It's a good business strategy. It's just running your business well and running it to be independent of you, but then running your life so that you're autonomous from your business. And these things really matter when it comes to anybody looking at you. And trust me, we've seen many transitions, and there's a lot of players in it. It's not just me and my partner Corey that do this for our clients. We've got a team. We've got a team at Merrill of attorneys and CPAs and family office services that can support that. We have
Sure.
investment banking. We have M&A advisors, but we also will partner with the CPAs, and we're going to partner with the value advisors, the people to walk through this process, because it's not something that happens in 6 months. It's not a singular event. It's a process.
Right. Kelli, talk about the 5 Ds.
Yeah. So we mentioned at the very beginning, okay, that 100% of business owners are going to exit their business. Okay. Now, we know that eventually everybody is going to die. So everybody is going to exit their business at one time. But
So death is one of them. Yep. Yep.
that's one of them. Okay. The reality is we talk about these 5 Ds because I hear from a lot of business owners. I'm going to work as long as I can. I'm going to work into my 60s or my 70s, or I hear this all the time. I haven't done anything for retirement because I put all of my effort into my business. And so I'm going to have to work until I'm 70 or 75 in order to manage this, which is, and for some people that might be the case. But the reality is you may say you're going to work to 75, but what if one of the 5 Ds, so death, divorce, disability, disease, or disaster come
Right.
we're watching this in Florida right now. There's going to be a lot
I
of businesses
know.
that are going to hurt from
I know. I got a store there. I'm crossing my fingers. Yeah.
We'll
Yep.
keep it first open for you though. But those things can force an exit, and anytime an exit is forced, it's never going to be good for the business owner. Okay.
No.
That's,
Right.
the reality is that, get this is true. 70% of businesses that go for sale, private businesses that go for sale, don't sell.
Wow.
70% do not sell. Okay.
So only 30% actually sell.
And then those 30% that actually sell have that range. And every business, every geography is different. So that's why we bring in the experts on evaluating business valuation, understanding that industry specifically, because somebody who sells a pet food manufacturing facility, it's going to be very different than somebody who sells a doctor's office. Okay, they're
Right.
going to have a different.
But the thing you're bringing up though is getting ahead of this and really thinking about those value drivers and having a strategy 2 or 3 or 5 years before you plan to exit and build the value, all of those sources of capital, build those, your culture, your people, how you've structured the business financially. Because when I was a corporate lender all those years, I saw people do that really well. And then they were able to get maximum dollars for their business. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
And basically what you're saying is you guys have the resources to help people do that too.
we do. And
Yep.
like I said, it's, not one person's not going to do it all. We're going to function as kind of like back on the team and bring all of the different team members together. They could be utilized from our family office services within Merrill, but they may be better utilized because you may have really good team players already. And we just need to coordinate it and make sure that all the players are online or are aligned with what the business owner wants to accomplish. I'm going to give you an example of this, okay? You might have a CPA. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never met a business owner CPA who didn't try to minimize what their W-2 income was. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
And whether they're sole proprietor, LLC, filing as an S corp or LLC, pushing everything through because of the self-employment tax. Okay, because everybody they grimace at that. Okay, well, that may or may not be good, right? Because you're running a lot of stuff through, and you're really decreasing your EBITDA because you're running costs through the business. And the other thing is you might be shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to like Social Security and those kinds of things. And that's a whole nother discussion. We're not going to go into it here, okay? Because everybody has
too much. Yeah.
The second one is you might have an estate planner, like a estate planning attorney, and they may just say, all I want to do is minimize or reduce what the estate tax will be. The business owner may say, I want to reduce estate tax and I want to reduce my, what my income tax is, but what I really want to do is be able to fund my retirement. Okay. And so when we start looking at all of what that expertise has in each area, they may have some conflicting, advice. Okay.
Yep.
And so what we do is we want to align that. We get everybody on the same page, and then we bring in, non-biased, experts to really evaluate it. Corey and I always say this. Corey says this all the time. He says, I'm not emotionally attached to your money. Okay.
Right.
What we're doing is we're trying to align what your specific goals are with the strategies that are going to help you achieve that. Okay. And that may mean that we're going to look at how do we prioritize and compromise on what these goals are. We may have a priority, like you may have a huge priority of like, it is the most important thing for me in the whole world for my wife to be taken care of if something happens to me immediately. Okay.
Sure. Right.
I have to be able to exit that. Or I have a special needs child and I need to make sure that they're taken care of. Some of the other considerations may not matter as much to you when we start looking at those priorities and what life brings into it. Okay. So all of these things have to go together, but we've got to quarterback that. Okay. We have to be that person that's aligning, like, okay, do we want to transition the business to our kids? What does that look like? Do we want to take advantage of gifting structure? Do we want to take advantage of the fact that the estate tax laws are going to sunset at the end of 2025? Do we want to try to gift that out? Do we want to look at working with a good legal team to gift to our spouse or to a trust, or any number of tropes that we utilized to, to potentially reduce sales, the cost of sales.
Sure.
But each expert may have their ability to do that. It doesn't mean that's what the owner should do to achieve all of their goals. And that's our job, is to take a look at that and align, okay, what components do we have to look? And we're going to give you a big old reality check, okay? Because I don't want to pay any estate tax. I don't want to pay any income tax. I don't want to pay any capital gains tax. And we may tell you, yeah, well, my dad used to have something about people in heck wanting ice water.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the process I went through, Kelli invited me to meet with her, and I want to encourage everybody that listens to this to do it, because it's not a sales call in disguise. What Kelli actually does, and I'm sure Corey does the same thing, is it's like a 45-minute interview. And she walks you through the different components of what you're going to have to plan for when you exit. And it was eye-opening for me. I think about Social Security differently than I used to, about when I'm going to take it. I think differently about the kind of value I need to get out of the business to live the way that I want to live, and have a legacy impact on my kids and grandkids. And I just found it, as somebody, I have a deep financial background. I've met with a lot of financial planners in my life, and it was the best experience I've ever had. And because just like we were talking about this before we got on, I love our clients at Tiger Medical. I deeply want all of you to feel better, because I know what that means for your marriages and your kids and your grandkids and your businesses. If you feel better, you're going to do better. And Kelli is the same way. She has that same idea of Kelli and Corey have that idea. They're there for you. They worry about the money later. It always works out when you have the client first. So Kelli, like, well, how do they get a hold of you to do that? Like,
so the best way to get a hold of us is either you can give us a telephone call, and I'll give you my number. I'll say it twice and I'll say it slowly.
Okay, good.
So it's 970-266-4837. Again, that's 970-266-4837. Now, Corey and I have just about the hardest names in the world to spell and to pronounce, okay? And it's almost like a rite of passage, when you learn this one. But I think it's best if we post what those spellings are. But you can see this on my name, how you spell it, the Kelli, Kelli, Olsheski, Olsheski. And you can see I have a middle initial, A. So when you send me an email, it's Kelli, Kelli, .a.olsheski, Olsheski at ml.com. Now that's ML like Merrill Lynch. Okay. So, but the other component of it too is you can always just pop an email to Steve, and he can forward an email to me. But he's got a ton of expertise in that area, and particularly in making connections with the right kind of mergers and acquisitions advisors, the different kinds of banking specialists that can be really useful in that arena, especially if somebody's looking to exit, whether it's 1 year, 2 years.
Good. Okay.
But again, just kind of going back to, one of the steps is I mentioned that focusing on the value of your company is really going to help all of these different aspects. Okay. One, it's going to improve your operation, because you're going to have higher consistency if you know how to, if you have really good processes, if you've got really good employees, if you have happy employees, and if your customers are really diversified. This is only going to help running your business. So it's good business strategy.
Yep, right.
And I mentioned early that an exit strategy is not a singular event. It's really a process to follow. It's just like the same thing. If I wanted to go and run a marathon, okay, which I don't plan on doing anytime soon, I have done in the past. Okay. I'm not just going to go out and say, oh, I'm going to go and do this. And I'm going to spend a week, eating really good food and going out and practicing my running. What I'm going to do is I'm going to practice. I'm going to start slowly. I'm going to have habits in my life that implement this training schedule. I'm going to improve my diet because I need to have proper nutrition to be able to complete this. Okay. Same thing on the health side. If I want to improve my health or have better nutrition, I'm not just going to go do it one time. I'm going to initiate a process and I'm going to stick with it. And it's going to be this process of continuous improvement. And it's no different with exit planning. Is if you have a really good process in place, none of the 5Ds are going to derail you, okay? Or
Right.
your family, because a good plan protects your assets, a great plan protects your family, okay?
I like that. Say that again, Kelli.
A good plan protects your assets and a great plan protects your family.
Family, yeah, I love that. That's good.
And ultimately, we talk about business owners, we talk about executives and all these things, but really what we work with are families and on helping them fulfill their purpose. Money is a tool, okay? And really, and we say this, everybody thinks a financial planner is a stock picker. We're not, okay? We've got
way more than that. Yeah, that's the old days.
Yeah, we got a ton of CFAs that do that for us, okay?
Yep.
But what we do is align their strategies with their goals. And we help them stay on track, and then we help align it so that they don't get derailed by something that could be emotional, or a bad situation comes up because we try to plan for those contingencies.
Again, what I want to encourage everybody is if you listen to this and you want to get to them, just email me too. You know how to get a hold of me. You can text me, you can email me, and I will make sure that I connect you to Kelli and Corey. But I would encourage you in the strongest terms that I can. So many of you are north of 50. You've been in business for many years. Take the time and meet with Kelli and do this front-end planning work. Thank you, guys.
If today's conversation sparked something in you, share it with a fellow founder, leader, or friend who's navigating life after the exit. And if you're ready to design your next chapter with clarity, health, and purpose, this is just the beginning. Subscribe now, leave a review, and be sure to tune in next week as we explore what it means to thrive when the business card is gone. Until then, keep building a life that matters.